Welcome to the Scoop with Deuce. I'm your host, Philip Deuce, aka Deuce the Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Deuce the Scoop, and make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Excuse me, y'all. This is a CU Scoop. That's right. And what we are going to do today is talk about the hiring of assistant offensive line coach Andre Gurode. That's right. Coach Prime has added yet another All Pro, former NFL All Pro to this staff. He's a Hall of Famer when it comes to the University of Colorado Boulder. Former Buff, played under Gary Barnett. Um, really well respected guy, ranked number 57 in the league at one time in the league's top 100 list. Um, Very well respected offensive line coach. Now, before I get into Coach Gerard and the breakdown on who he is as a person so you can learn a little bit more about him, I think that this hire, when you mix it with the hire of Gunnar White, who didn't have an extensive player career, but I am under the impression that, and I have heard that Coach Prime and the Colorado staff likes the fact that he brings ideas. He's very smart. He's a good listener. He's very relatable. So those things are really important in the college game. When you add him to a guy like Coach Hageman, and now you bring in Gerard, who for maybe 5 years was the best player at his position in the NFL, offensive line play, interior play, center play, guard. Now you have pretty much a foolproof plan when it comes to the college level. You've got pro experience, you've got a mixture. You've got Hageman, who can be an imposing figure. You've got Coach White, who has a relatability that's going to be different. But you also have now Coach Andre Gurode, who very personable, very well spoken, super smart, someone who breaks the game down at a different level when you talk to people that know him. A lot of times people see offensive line coaches as sometimes as, blockers only. They don't look at them for their intellect. Well, this is a guy who clearly smashes that stereotype in half. He's very, very well spoken, entertaining, and a charismatic guy. So I think when you add those factors in to what you already have there, the NFL experience, it's an amazing hire by Coach Prime, and I think it'll bode well for the Buffs this year as they want to kick up their run game. Now, when you look at the hires made, the two newest ones, Marshall Faulk, and if you go back and look at my first Marshall Faulk video, I talk about his experience with the Air Coryell offensive system and how that blends with Coach Shermer and how they can literally have synergy based on ideologies that they're really familiar with. Coach Rod is another one of those guys. When you look at his tenure in Dallas, he was coached by some of the best in the business. When you look at Coach Bill Parcells coaching him, and being coached by Jason Garrett, and but I want to talk about Tony Sperano. God bless him, Tony Sperano Sr., one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the game, and someone in some circles who's been credited as being the springboard to Coach Gerard's career. Now, it's Black History Month, so a couple of Black History facts. One, when Emmitt Smith broke the all-time rushing record, he was the center who blocked for him. That's one piece of Black history, but this is another one that I think is really interesting. He's also was a part of the first all-Black offensive line in league history. All 5 starters from left to right. One of those starters being Larry Allen, who's one of the greatest of all time. From left to right were African American. That's another piece of Black history and Black History Month. And I think the third piece, the first rookie center to start day one in Cowboys history. The first. So just some historical context, of who Coach Gerard, Coach Dre, has been in a previous life. Let's go down. We can look at the timeline now that we got to look familiar. Let's go look at this timeline. All right, born in 1978, has a birthday upcoming March 6th. That puts him at what? 46 years old, about to be 47, which means that I'll be 43 in October. Time is flying. All right, so most recently in the UFL, he coached for the San Antonio Brahmas. And that I think originally he was with the Houston Roughnecks, his hometown, and then they transferred after the merger, and he went to the Brahmas with Coach Wade Phillips, another staple in Dallas Cowboys history, great defensive coordinator. So let's start with Colorado. Attended University of Colorado Boulder, played from '98 to 2001, 4-year starter, played center and guard. Started his first 2.5 seasons at center, moved to guard his junior year. All Big 12, and in 2000 and 2001, first team All-American, and was the Jerry Mack Award winner for the best offensive lineman for Colorado, if I'm saying that correctly. If I'm calling that award wrong, please. Hold on, was it Jerry Mack? Let me make sure. At first, I thought it was Mackey, but it's the Mack Award. I don't know if it's Jerry Mack. Let's just call it the Mack Award. And if you have the official title of the award, drop it for me. But yeah, from Houston, great athlete. He has a great story. He has a interview on YouTube. Go check this out. Check this out. Andre Gerard and D Hop. There's a podcast about the name of D Hop. He goes on his show, and he tells a really good story. So I think, to get a better picture of who he is. And he tells this story as well in other places, but he really told it well here about starting football in Houston in the 5th Ward. But make sure you go check out that podcast. Shout out to D Hop for getting such a good interview. But he talks about his start in football originated with his father being a football coach. He was about 5 years old, looking at the older players play. He wanted to play, and from that moment, he thought that he was like, it's kind of like the mascot, but he saw himself as a giant then. They didn't look that big to him. He thought he could have played with them then. I think that's very foretelling. And he also says that he knew he was going to be in the NFL at 9 years old. And he didn't just go to the NFL, he was an all-pro. So I think that belief system and what's ingrained in him is going to bode well on a collegiate level for someone who knew early that he had potential in a world where guys are being told, hey, you're a D1 caliber athlete. As soon as that, people started seeing like, all right, this guy's bigger than the rest of the kids, or he has more talent than the rest of the kids. As early as 5, 6 years old, people ranking kids now and identifying if they'll go to the next level in some type of capacity as a football player. So I think his ability to foreshadow his own life is going to work well for him on the college level. Another interesting story about how he got to Colorado. Very close relationship with his grandmother and the University of Colorado coaches while they were recruiting him. Went to visit his grandma, and they promised her that if he goes to Colorado, we're gonna make sure he graduates. And I think that was very telling as far as someone who went through the recruiting process the way he did in the late '90s. Where recruiting was wild, not as wild as this, but it was still wild in those times. And I think that's an interesting story. One, not only because of the relationship that he had with his grandmother, but secondly, as far as his affinity for the University of Colorado isn't just tied to Coach Prime. He's a guy who loves the University of Colorado for what they did to him. And what they did for him. And to be able to be a bridge for somebody who knows Coach Prime on a professional level outside of Colorado, but also can understands Boulder in a way as an alum, I think he's that bridge is something that's going to bode super well for him. And another reason why I think that this is another just great fit and another great hire for the Buffaloes. Let's talk about pro career. Dallas Cowboys, 2nd round pick in the 2002 draft, 37th overall. Offensive linemen, or especially interior offensive linemen that go in the 2nd round, it's basically like being a 1st round pick. Started the first 6 games at center, moved to help compensate to guard, to help compensate for injuries. 2003, Coach Parcells, one of the greats, the GOAT in some people's opinion. Bill Parcells comes to the Cowboys and thinks he's better served as a guard. Goes to guard and ends up getting benched the last 2 games of the 2nd year. Um, they move him back. Tony Sperano comes, and Tony Sperano, one of the offensive line whisperers of NFL history. God bless him. Also was a successful head coach. Tony Sperano was also the only guy to take a 1-win team to a 10-win team, I believe. And so shout out to him and his son, Tony Sperano Jr., who's doing his thing in the NFL right now with offensive line coaching. But Tony Sperano helped springboard his career because he moved him back to center. And after he moved back to center, following the 2006 season, he makes the Pro Bowl as an injury replacement. Then goes back to center full time. 5 straight Pro Bowls from that time: 2006, 2007, 8, 9, and 10. Then he becomes becomes an All Pro, and under that guidance. Now, Tony Sperano is a guy, and when we talk about philosophy, something that he's been under, Coach Gerard is, and you can go back and look at this D Hop interview. And while he's in this interview with D Hop, not the ball player, but D Hop, the media member, he goes and he talks about what it's like to watch a football game with him. And this is before he gets to Colorado. It's like last year sometime. He's like, I'm breaking down everything. Now, this is Coach Gerard talking. He said, I'm looking at the development of the play. I'm going to tell you what happens before it happens. I'm looking at the schematics. I'm looking at the personnel, and we're breaking down everything when I watch the game. And that excited me from a Colorado perspective because when you look at nuances of other teams, and a lot of the times when coaches or position coaches or coordinators, when they're thinking about the scheme and they're thinking about more higher level stuff, when you can have a guy who already understands the game under his own admission and played at a very high level with some of the best and biggest names that we'll ever hear, literally was with Emmitt Smith when he broke the all-time rushing record, right? When you think about his resume and you think about how he talks about breaking down film, there are going to be things that the offensive coordinator, Coach White, won't be able to see that he will. So when you think about assistant O-line coaches, you usually don't think about an all-pro. But that's who this guy is. And you combine that with Hageman, now you have a 3-headed monster that I feel is going to look something like Coach Dancy, Sapp, and D. Lou did last year on the defensive line, that resurgence. So Coach Gerard is familiar with gap and man blocking schemes. He's been quoted as talking about zone blocking being more lateral and back steps, man blocking not technically necessarily being just attacking the guy, but more so about attacking the technique, angle blocking it sometimes. How do you run the trap blocking? And when you hear him talk about offensive line play, it's like you learn so much in such a short period of time. And I've done a ton of digging just to go find out. But what I'll tell you is this: Coach Gerard's acumen as far as being able to communicate, he's a great communicator. He can work a room, very charismatic. I'm very interested to see how he takes to recruiting. Someone from the Houston area he's a North Shore alum, football powerhouse, someone whose family has been like ingrained in that Houston community, Fifth Ward, forever, which is a hotbed for high school football. So I think that helps you. Just a lot of ways that he helps. And I thought one of the most interesting things that I found when I was doing my digging was they asked Coach Gerard who were his toughest challenges as one of the premier interior offensive linemen in the NFL. He said 2 names. One, John Randall, who was a madman, and he tells a story of how they had from the same town as his parents. Okay, got him out of his game. Please go watch this podcast from D-Hop. And the second one was Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp, he said, was his toughest competition. So from having guys who went to war in the NFL who could tell those stories about playing against each other, weaknesses, deficiencies, strengths, opportunities, I just feel like what Coach Prime is building on this offensive line when you got the talent that you have, when you're bringing in a guy like Jordan Seed and the rest of that line, getting the most out of people who want to go to the NFL and actually have the measurables to get there. Can't wait till you can see him with a guy like Carday Smith and telling him things, stories about the great Larry Allen or Flozell. You know, I just see this as Coach Prime taking the opportunity to round out that room in a perfect way. You got two NFL experienced guys, and you got a guy who knows how to work with you. So they can lean on each other. So what Gunnar White doesn't have in playing experience at the highest level, he has in Coach Prime experience and coaching at the college level, as he was also the primary recruiter on some of those guys on offensive line. So I think it's a perfect marriage, and I'm really excited for the Colorado Buffaloes. That's my breakdown of Andre Gurode. If you got any more questions or anything or suggestions, please drop it in the comments. I am Dukes D Scoop. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Please remember, you tell me the morning run, the scoop with Dukes. Monday Night Live with Dukes on Monday nights. Every Monday night we will be going live. So please turn on your notifications. And this is what, 12:47 in Atlanta. And I'm about to put this up. It'll be up about 1 o'clock Atlanta time, 11 o'clock Mountain. So all my third shift to Colorado fans, here you go. All right, hit me. I'm out.